Okay, guys. We need. Well, let me read this. This says Carlos needs to buy some new pencils from the school supply store at a school. Carlos asked his classmates if they know how much pencils cost. Angela said she bought 2 pencils for 50 cents. Paige bought 3 pencils for 75 cents. And Spencer bought 4 pencils for $1. So how much is it per pencil? 25 cents. Okay, that's right. That's right. But we can use our algebra skills to find that. So if you fill out this table of values, it was 50 cents for 2 pencils, right? Yeah. So here's the number of pencils. Here's the 50 cents. And the next one, when you buy 3 pencils, is 75. When you buy 4 pencils, it's $1. Okay. And we're gonna finish filling this out in a second. So where the 25 cents comes from is that these are actually points on the grid, right? So this would be like 2 comma 0.5, and this would be like 3 comma 0.75. By the way, on your most recent test, so well, let me jump into this. So this is x1, y1, and this could be x2, y2. And somebody said, well, the slope, the formula is y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, in your most recent test, some people didn't write the formula out, and they made some common mistakes. The most common mistake that you guys made on the test is some people did it like this. They put the x's and the y's, they flip-flopped them. That is wrong. Y's always go on top. Because we're talking about the rise over run, that up and down is the y values, okay? So that is wrong. It's always y's on top. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So then my slope is going to be 0.75 minus y sub 1. What's y sub 1? No, y sub 1. Oh, y sub 1, 0.50. First try. X2, yeah, it's 3 minus 2, right? So then this is where your 25 cents comes from. 25 over 1. And if this is a linear relationship, now we could go back and solve for b. So let's solve for b just for the fun of it. Now here on your most recent test, the most common mistake made was that, well, you guys knew that you're going to have to plug in a y, and you're going to have to plug in an x, and you're going to have to plug in an m, and then solve for b, right? So the next step in writing your equation is we need to find b. And the way that we find b is we plug in, write all this down, because this is where a lot of people made their mistakes, an x and the corresponding y, and then the slope m. So it doesn't matter which x or y you use. I told you guys use the third one. You don't have to. I'm going to do 0.5 for y. And what's the corresponding x with 0.5? 2. So my 2 goes here, and m is my slope, right? So I'm going to plug in my slope, which is 0.25. Okay? And then I got to tack on, because the formula calls for a plus b. Plus b is, what does b represent on the graph? Yeah, b is the y-intercept. All right, cool. What's 0.25 times 2? 0.5. And over here I have 0.5. And then I have plus b. Now here's where you guys made a lot of mistakes. This is the most common mistake. You either added 0.5. You guys knew that you needed to move this 0.5. Okay? You knew that you had to move this. But the most common mistake that you guys made is how you moved it. Technically, what is the 0.5 doing to b on this side of the equation, what are they doing? Well, we want to get rid of it, but what is it doing right now? I heard it in the back. Somebody said they're adding. What's the inverse of adding? Subtracting. What do I want to move? The 0.5. So I'm going to subtract the 0.5 from both sides. So when you do, well, some of you did it and some of you didn't. So I'm just going over it so that way you know what to do. Now, what if this was a negative 0.5? What would you do? You would add them. You always do the opposite or the mathematical inverse. What's 0.50 minus 0.50? 0. And then this is 0, so this cancels. And then we just have b equals 0. So my equation for the line is y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug in the m, which is 0.25 times x. Do I need to write plus 0? No. This right here and this, whatever this is the rule of the function. So that means for all of these, I'm just going to take 0.25 and plug in an x value and get this cost. So this is my x value. These are my y values. And so if we scroll up and we look in our book, the x values are always associated with the input. The rule, and we're going to call the rule f, is a function. And we'll talk more about what is a function. So in all these equations, these are, for right now, you have, they're called two parameter or two variable equations. You have an x and a y. Okay? Now, a function is a very specific type of equation. It has one unique output for each input. Okay? But it's like a machine. So this pen cap is made out of plastic, but it doesn't start as a plastic cap. It starts as little tiny chips of plastic. And they take the little tiny chips of plastic and they put them into a machine. The machine puts a lot of pressure on the chips of plastic and it heats up and it melts to like liquid plastic. Then they take that liquid plastic and put it in a machine. Well, it's still in the machine, but then they put it in a mold shaped like this cap. And then when it cools off, they make a plastic cap. And they do all this in a fraction of a second. So a machine operates in a way that you take an input, put it in, the machine does some work, and then you get something else out. So what that means is when I plug in a 2, I'm going to say 0.25 times 2, and my output is going to be 0.5. Okay? Because 0.25 times 2 equals 0.5. Okay? So then this rule, I want you guys to try to do this on your own. Let's try the input of 12. You're going to, and get your calculators ready, and say 0.25 times 12. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to do that. And tell me what the corresponding y is. Don't say it out loud. I want you guys to do it on your own. I want everybody to plug this in the calculator. And we probably should put a dollar sign. So let's put a dollar sign here, $0, dollar sign here. So the rule then is we're going to say 0.25 times 12. So this is my input, right? This is the function f. And then my output is going to be $3, right? Yeah. So I know you guys have done this, but let me put this in the video just in case somebody that's absent today doesn't know how to do this. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug that in the calculator. And I'm going to say 0.25 times 12, and I get 3.
When is the last time you cleared your calculator? It was like all the past
Yesterday afternoon sometime. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I am a math teacher, and I do math on my calculator all day long. And why are you hating?
I'm not hating.
Don't be a hater.
It's just irking me. Yeah, don't be. I ain't mean a hater. We just like.
Oh, you guys just enjoy hating me? Okay.
That's a hobby.
All right. So, what do you think if I plug in x? What should I put here? 0.25 what? Yeah, times x. I'm going to write it in parentheses. What will my output be? Yeah, you could just leave it blank, right? Because we don't know what it is because we don't know what x is.
That's why you use y as a variable.
You could put y. Oh, I'm going to show you a new notation later that'll help you. So anyways, let's answer these questions. It says use the prices. Well, we did that to fill in the table. And now describe the patterns that you see. Use the pattern to determine the cost of one pencil. So how would you write that? Okay. Yeah, let's just write each. So we want to verbalize it. Each pencil cost 0.25. So if I let x equals 1, and that's the number of pencils, then I would say y equals 0.25 times 1, and that equals 0.25. And so you would say 1 pencil cost 0.25 or 25 cents or a quarter of a dollar. And then that's it. Does that make sense? So I will leave that up for just a second if you guys are still writing that down.